Pallavi.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Namaste to all.
So, folks, welcome for one more in the series of HR Wellbeing Dialogue brought to you together by Mana Wellness and More Than HR. It doesn't matter whether you have already been associated with Mana Wellness or MTHR, but now you are. And you're probably here because you're very interested or curious about this theme. So today we are going to have a chat. We've had several earlier. I hope some of those you have caught. If you haven't, you will find these recordings. You can go to the Mana HR Wellbeing page. You probably have the link. If you don't, you will get it at the end of this program. So we're going to chat with Pallavi today about well-being in general, organizational well-being, and the well-being of HR specifically. So I want to start, Pallavi, by requesting you to share a little bit about your background and the organization which you've recently taken on.
Okay. Thank you so much, MTHR and Mana Wellness, for this kind of an opportunity wherein we are talking about something which is very less spoken till now, and we all are somewhere or the other encountered with this kind of an issue at the professional and the personal space. So very unique way and very unique topic as well. I am here with around 19 years of experienced post qualification, and have worked in organizations from German culture to US culture. Have been responsible for taking the HR operations role in India, and at pockets in the global sphere as well. Have been instrumental in setting up post merger integration projects, CSR verticals, infrastructure civil projects as well. So it has been a really good journey for me in last 19 years, close to 19 years precisely. Have worked with different kind of leaders. Definitely eminent of them have learned a lot of things. Being close to business is really very important. And so worked with stalwarts like Rajesh we have here, and others also in my professional career, who have made me
Yes.
reach to this role where I am currently working with another German automotive organization called Norma Group, which has its presence typically in automotive domain. However, we also are growing inorganically, and we also have different business units. Focusing on ESG, we have our focus on water. So Kim Plus Piping is also one of the organizations I'm supporting here. Very recently joined, and yes, looking forward for many more years together.
Superb. We look forward to it too. I want to start by asking you, Pallavi, that almost in every organization and in professional life in general, typically people start conversation with, "Hi, how are you?" And many a times people don't even wait for the response and already get into conversations. Okay, I want to ask you, how serious are people in organizations really about this basic wellness of people? What's your view?
I think pretty correctly picked up. This is more from, instead of asking, it is like, this is a connotation that whenever we meet somebody, we have to say, hey, hi, what's up? How are you? And since it is the beginning of the day, or you're meeting the person for the first time, you always end up saying that, hey, I'm good. How are you? So the reciprocation is also on a very positive note. This is again a culture of the organization. Very typically, we have cross-functional team people meeting. We have colleagues, boss and subordinate meeting. So to though I'm aligned, I would say that yes, we may not just say that yeah, I'm not okay, not doing good, but by default the reciprocation goes in a positive note, saying that yeah, I'm good. How are you? So
Yes.
that's maybe the cultural aspect, or maybe the company organizational culture is also
So perhaps a starting point could be to genuinely listen to the response of the other individual look at the face, the eyes of the person, and look for probably visible signs of what is that individual radiating. Is Does it feel like it's positive? Does
Yeah.
it feel like it's happy? Is it really good? Could that be the starting point? क्योंकि अगर हम उतना भी नहीं करते पल्लवी, तो फिर हम wellness की क्या बात करें in organizations, right? Because it is so mechanical, if I may call it that. Is not to say that all organizations are like this, but this is just a comment of how generally I've encountered in organizations. So many people neither look up nor wait for the response. What do you feel?
Pretty right, because I think the millennium generation is bringing that change because they take the things very seriously. Health is something that they really are very focused for. So when you meet a group of GTs, they are they're very energetic. So they ask you, hi, how are you, how was your day, what did you do in the weekend. So I,
Wow.
I think that's how the culture is getting incorporated, because the young cadre who are coming on board are pretty clear in terms of their mind of the focus on the health is there, and also they look forward for a reciprocation. So it is I think we are in the phase of looking forward for change from a shift perspective, which is good. So yes, they may not really look forward for answer and wait, but then they look for sure that yes, how has your day been, what did you do, what was your outtake in the last meeting that we have met. So this is I would say that yes,
Superb.
it's kind of a change which is kind of
Very
feel.
heartened to hear this, Pallavi. So good to hear. Yes, I at least agree with you partly that perhaps the newer generation is bringing in this change with a little bit more focus on themselves
Yeah,
and their activities, right? I think they seek and probably are more assertive. That would probably be the change in saying, here is what I want to do,
absolutely.
this is what I want to do on the weekend. Now, here's the question, therefore, all right, since you brought it up very beautifully. So, how do organizations respond, in your view, to the younger generation's kind of assertion we want more time for ourselves and our health? Do organizations take it well, especially old economy industries?
um, Now, this is where the preparedness, or rather the mental preparedness of the organizations, really pick up. And I think this is a very top-down, bottom approach, wherein management agrees that when in the era of reverse mentoring we are talking about, so management typically is prepared from a perspective that we are bringing in change, and the change is not only from different diversity of thoughts are concerned, but definitely throwing upon the challenges, acceptability, and mentally being prepared that what has been happening as a legacy will not be persistent anymore. So I think it's a top down approach, and also management is taking up pretty seriously. Whereas the challenge, if I have to say, I would say is the mid management, wherein they feel themselves to be sandwiched. At times they feel that, yeah, this liberty wasn't there at my times, now I am being asked to do by my superiors as well, and even my subordinates as well. So we feel sandwiched, and that's where the satisfaction, dissatisfaction, or engagement, disengagement index also, you would see that
Superb.
that is the particular graph where you would have the maximum number of non-engaged, disengaged, if you go for an ESAT score. So, but from a
So,
management perspective, certainly they are adaptive to the change in a positive
yes.
manner.
So, people who are tuned in, we just got our first insight. It is possible that leaders at the top want to bring in change and truly at least recognize that change towards our a change in our approach towards wellness is important.
Yes,
But it's likely, and we as HR have to examine, is our middle management prepared for this?
true,
Are
very
they
true.
resentful that हमको तो नहीं मिला ऐसा
Exactly.
वाला culture? Now what is this? Who are these Johnny come latelys who are suddenly demanding work life balance?
Yes.
And we have to kind of, uh, heed their request. and give them time
True.
for all of this. Superb, a wonderful, Pallavi. You brought this in quite early. So therein comes my second question. So if we have to bring in well-being cultures, can we even start really just, you said top down, but would it even be sufficient if the leader simply says that, look, we are now, especially post pandemic,
Hmm.
looking at well-being very seriously? क्या ये बोलने से, कम्युनिकेट करने से काम हो जाएगा, or is it far more difficult to really cascade it downwards in your experience?
It is always, change is always difficult. Change is always difficult. The only way in which we can show change is in two manners, according to me, is alignment and benefits. So if I could show that, we are aligned to the approach, and the approach is not whether it is a middle management approach or whether it is a zen z approach. The approach has to be what is happening today. If we do not change ourselves, we may not be sustaining ourselves the way we are doing it today. We have to change. So that's where the alignment of overall market is concerned, economy is concerned, is important. Communicating that change, how do we speak about it, or how do we bring forth it? If it is in a very autonomy kind of a thing, or if it is a commanded way, it will never be done, because again, it's about the, how good our younger generation, who are going to be future leaders, they would not understand anything which is mandated. It has to be an aligned, and the best way of aligning is to show the benefits, that this is pre and this is post. So if you do this, if we have some benchmark data, this is how it would be. If we do not change ourselves, then the story of Kodak and Canon will get repeated. So how do we make sure that we are not Kodak and we follow the way in which Canon took over, and we change ourselves for the change of good? Of course, there are going to be certain issues, or maybe I think it's more from a um, adaptability perspective, wherein resistance would be there. However, agility is the key word for today. We are talking everywhere about agility, which definitely brings changes. I mean, whether it is from an automotive segment to, we are talking about EV at large. So if mentally we are prepared to have a concept from a technical perspective, why not on human perspective? And that's where the leadership thought processes definitely comes up. And if we cascade the information in the right manner, change will definitely happen for it.
Okay, interesting. So therein lies our second insight, dear audiences. First, seek alignment and then simultaneously start showing benefits. And that's how probably change begins to take place culturally in organizations. There is no easy way, says Pallavi. Change is always difficult. We know that. But hence, it is extremely important to know, especially if you are a young HR professional, you need to stick it out and become a role model before you can expect people to really fall in line. Okay, wonderful, Pallavi. Now I'm going to put you in a spot a little bit. All right. How, see, look at how, you know, environment is getting impacted these days, right? Recently people were asking me, hey, how was Delhi? And I was traveling to Delhi. I was wondering, what did they mean? Did they mean how my work was, or did they mean how was the quality of air over there? All right, now my question is this. While this may be more specific at this point in time to a city like Delhi, which gets impacted by the combination of winter and the farm fires, so to say, but it is a fact that more and more pollution is causing people in especially urban areas to feel all kinds of illnesses cropping up. Now, is there anything that we as organizations, HR, and leaders can communicate in the overall well being of humanity and planet? Have you come across something like this? Have you done something like this?
All organizations, majorly in a large or a mid scale are talking about being carbon neutral. One of the one of the major initiatives or many initiatives as the strategic initiatives at a global level is getting cascaded, that how many carbon points do I save, turning the you know panels under a solar. So we are talking a lot in terms of sustainability. ESG is the word nowadays. But is it just because we are doing it because our counterparts or the headquarters outside India is asking us to do? I think it was few years back, but now the answer is no. India, precisely, or maybe our country, our employees have understood the value of doing it first time right and doing it ourselves first. So when it comes to pollution and when it comes to maintaining a culture, I should be the first person to switch off the light if I am moving out of the conference room. I should be the person to ensure that if I'm the last person to move out, I must mention to the security to switch off the office lights or the ACs, which are central ACs. So even these small snippets. So 22nd of June, we celebrated as the carbon, I would say the climate day for the organizations. And many initiatives have been taken in terms of pooling the car together. Let's have a bicycle day. Let us not go out. So considering 1 week of a day, like Friday I will not take out my vehicle, come what may. So I would choose to work from home. So small initiatives, of course, if we take ourselves, so I be the first person to do it, I'm sure in coming future we would be able to make a mark. But this is again wherein the culture is getting set up.
Lovely. You bring a lot of optimism, I must say, Pallavi. You have an answer for all positive, in all positive ways. But of course, I'm sure these are, true examples of organization. Again, very heartening. So, folks, remember, especially if you are an HR professional, but you could be a professional from any field. While we speak about well-being of individuals and organizations, it's just not possible unless we care about the well-being of the planet. How we are becoming role models for that is what Pallavi is speaking about. Are we conscious of how am I adding to the pollution every time I take my car out? Am I reducing the burden a little bit by pooling with others perhaps?
Absolutely.
How am I utilizing, let's say, bicycle, walking, etc.? How am I lowering the consumption of, let's say, uh, ACs, fridges, microwaves, etc.? So this is very important, my dear friends. We must not only speak the language of well-being, we must think about overall well-being. That's the third insight for today. So that brings me to another point, Pallavi, very important. You know, we are speaking on one hand of well-being and the millennials and beyond becoming more and more aware and conscious and even practicing it. But I'm wondering, sometimes we are seeing a real surge in the number of heart attacks and probably resulting deaths. Okay, I don't want to draw a generalization that more younger people are dying. Maybe it's not so. But it is certain that we are seeing more and more heart attacks in people. Perhaps not physical in nature, but as we call it, psychosomatic diseases. How do we address this? Because this is not something that, probably bol ke hoga, right? We can communicate wellness strategy of the organization. But do you have any thoughts on this?
um, I think when you started your conversation or this question, you already answered a part of it. uh, the culture today or the families today, irrespective of the age, are have stopped talking. So they are too much in terms of the time consumption. Instead of if there is any barometer to find how much they are talking together, instead of a barometer to say how much spent time I've spent in my iPad, that's an answer. People do not talk. They think that my boundaries are limited to my Instagram or my social networking. But when they are small things, when they are admitted for anything, in COVID taught a lot of things to us. They really taught that Instagram will not have anybody standing next to you. It is your family and friend who's going to be there. So this is
Wow.
again the deterioration of the culture, because too much of information is always not good. Too much of information is there. We have gadgets, but it is for certainly, the urge of having a talk, or the urge of discussing a chat, or just hopping up to a friend's house is completely gone. I mean, if I have to say, at all the ages, in fact, including my children, I'm all of our children are maids are also now in WhatsApp. So how good it is? It is not. Maybe from a connected perspective, from an update perspective, it may be good to a certain level, but then that certain level has to be decided by us. So, can I get a heal up from any gadget? The answer is no, for any age for that matter. However, the other side of it is that we have our elderly parents. Unfortunately, the amount of time we are spending, maybe I would take 1 minute more to explain, but this is
Of
something
course.
really
Please go
important.
ahead.
We may, because of the infrastructure and the pollutions that you're talking about, different kind of upgradations of infrastructure have let us spend more time in traffics. We may not end up spending time in talking to our parents, and that's the reason even the parents feel that they are connected to through gadgets to us, which is a very not so good sign, because we need to, at the end of the day,
Perfect.
speak to them that how are you. Writing a WhatsApp message at WhatsApp, what did you eat in the lunch, how was the day, not attending to their call, saying that I'm in a meeting, maybe not a good solution to them, which is indirectly also putting up a pressure in terms of the detachment is concerned. People feel that, okay, I'm alone, so I have my Insta or WhatsApp or Facebook with me, let me watch some videos, and hence they reciprocate the same what they watch consistently. So again, the AI, the emotional AI kind of comes into play, because you end up thinking the same thing repeatedly again and again, and you feel that everybody is thinking like this, and that is nothing less but introducing a mental pressure on your mindset, which may not be true, but you have carved it around you. So that's where one-on-one touch or one-on-one talk connect
Super.
is very, very important.
Lovely. What an amazing point. So, fourth insight, my dear friends, probably we have known this for centuries as Indians, that nothing can substitute human connect. So, what I hear, and I remember having some conversation around this, Pallavi, in our first HR well-being dialogue, which we had on the same platform with Venka, all right, and we Venka Reddy, and we spoke about how connection, human connectedness, is far more important than connection over social media. And you said it so well, when we are in need of, let's say, health, comfort, a good kind word, and so on, it is your Insta or your Facebook or any other is not going to be able to provide that. If anything, as we read, I do not spend too much time. It's little hard for me to tell, but I read a lot that people, in fact, feel FOMO,
Mm-hmm.
or feel often
Mm-hmm.
a reduction in self worth when they spend more and more time on
True.
social media. So, if anything, it's doing the opposite. So, folks, please, and I think another very important thing that Pallavi brought in, and it's so beautiful, is that if you have the elderly in your home, are you spending time with them? Are you helping yourself get feel better through connection with people at home? And the same thing passed on to the next generation, whether at home or at the workplace. Amazing. So that brings me to my next question. But, folks, I want to tell you at this point in time, if you already have questions and comments coming up in your mind, I request you to put it in the chat box, and we'll take up those questions a little later. Okay, we are very, very interested in knowing what you think. So, Pallavi, I spoke about Indian, right? And in India, we say it's a high context culture. हमें generally दूसरे लोगों की जरूरत है. How is it in your experience with German or American cultures? Did you find the concept of wellness itself changing when you worked for a German major or an American organization?
Absolutely, yes, and it is. In fact, it was initial years. I was deputed in Vetter, and I grew up now being associated with the German culture for a little longer period of time. They are clear in their mind, very very clear. So they spend a dedicated time in cooking themselves. That complete time is based on traveling. So they are very family oriented. I'm talking about Germans per se
Yes.
right now.
Go on.
Very family oriented. They have their plans of visiting UNESCO sites, for example, and they are very very well read. So they take their profession very seriously, all like any other, but they take their entertainment also equally seriously. They take their mental health also equally seriously. They take their overall sphere of influence very very seriously. So they're not just living a life for the
Work.
organization, yes, but they are living the lives, which means that when if they're going to visit some place, they're very well read. When they come out, they have a map to say that yeah, I have read about it. So they talk to the guy. Very very something really to be, something to be
Done.
proud of, something to learn from them, something to be proud of, that yeah, this is a development for us. For me, maybe I would go next time. If I plan a trip myself, I must know the places, wherein I've gone, what is the history, and if we can percolate that to our next generation, I think in slow and steady way it would change.
Right.
US again are more party oriented people, which indirectly also means that they also live their lives. So the concept of office is within the office hours, but outside office hours, they have a pretty you know uh, distributed kind of a lifestyle. They give family to their relationships. They give time to their families and the relationships, and something very much similar to Indians. We give a little more priority to our work, which has to, going forward, be balanced rightly.
Right. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm going to come a little bit to a couple of incidents that you had so kindly shared during the live get together of for a round table of HR leaders that we had in Pune. But before I come to that, uh, I think it's just today morning I read where a report was published that Ireland has largely, it said about 86% of organizations moved to a 4-day week and they are seeing huge benefits health wise, mental health wise, productivity wise, efficiency wise, and so on. I want to ask you, I felt skeptical. How real is this? How sustainable is this? What do you think? If a similar thing was brought about in India, do you think it would, bring about so much of a change and on a regular basis?
I would go one step back and again would thank COVID for teaching business leaders that manufacturing setup can still go for 5 days week. So this is something, or rather not working,
Okay.
so indirect functions or non-production functions going for a 5 days week, but the plant was working. So I think
Okay.
one thing which we learned, which we knew, however, which kind of circumphrased now, is if any function holds himself or herself accountable for doing a job within the stipulated amount of time with the same quality of deliverables within the same cost, so time, delivery, and cost, maintaining the same ratios. um, Organization to organization it differs, but I don't think so that there is absolutely a no to it. For sure, the culture. See, when we're talking about what people, I want to employ a person who is happy to work. The moment the employee joins a company and starts comparing that I am a 6 day week or that person in that company is a 5 days, the disconnect is started on the induction day itself. So how well can we really expect a deliverable from somebody who is disconnected from the day one because of the comparisons that is being done? However, if we make again, if we throw upon a scenario or a simulation that if you wish to take this, this is how the deliverables would be. You would have to give away your leaves because we have mandate of 48 hours a week, something of that sort. And if you do this, you will have this. So that's about, we have to come up with a structure and not a dictatorship. But from a business revenue perspective, all of us are working for making sure the business doesn't suffer, and keeping those things in mind, a little bit of harmonization or you know um, I think hybrid is possible a little bit. But yes, instead of saying no, not possible, this is doable and possible.
So you're saying that it may give benefits.
Yes, I am
Having,
eventually employing somebody who would want to continue with me. So,
hmm,
the person is happy to work in the organization because we are offering them a little bit of flexibility without
sure,
challenging the deliverables. So,
sure, absolutely. Okay, I get it. So next insight, my dear friends, is what's good for another culture or organization may not necessarily be good for you.
yes, absolutely.
So let's not try to bring in best practices just, but let's see, is this something is probably benefit in my context? Can we research it? Can we do a pilot? Can we talk to employees? Can we go to our ecosystem, investigate, do research, and then make a case of it and
Present.
attempt to bring it in? Is that what you are suggesting, Pallavi?
Yes, because any policy for that matter, or any change for that matter, has to be piloted. We have to definitely go for a prototype. We have to pilot it and see from a sustainability perspective. Otherwise, it will have the impact on the whole entire organization. So, whenever any, like for example, during COVID, um, we okay, we decided, many organizations, we did benchmarks, we decided to understand that do we really go, is there any need to have a separate insurance policy, so and then how much impact is going to give us in terms of company pays the entire premium other than the JMC and GPA that we have. So we did this research, and then the good part was that yes, the willingness. I mean, we sold that concept to the employees because the company thought for the employees much before the employees was thinking for the employee. We thought, we took the data, we understand, we did analysis, and that's wherein we in one of the organizations we floated optional Corona coverage policy other than the normal. So
I
similarly,
see.
we also understand that how can we have a hybrid. So we introduced again researching, talking to your fellow colleagues of similar industry. Something which is happening in banking may not be persistent and sustainable here in your manufacturing. So you have to have your right apple to apple match. Sometimes everything cannot be just replicated the way, because your demographics play a lot of important role. Your people age, how many years they have been in the organization. Are they young from an average age perspective? How savvy are they? If we shift every learning and development to a virtual platform, will they are they equipped enough to learn from their phones? So we have to do this permutation combination before rolling out even a smallest of the intervention.
Sure. So I want to come now from organizational and employee wellness to HR wellness. So, Pallavi, as we know, you care about others, I care about others, and in general, a large number of HR folks are worried about their employees,
Yes.
about their people at various levels, etc., etc. How much care do we take of ourselves? Number one. And number two, could you share for audiences who may be very different from we had at Pune in person? What was the flip side of not paying adequate attention to self?
Do you really want me to say?
Of course, it's
I
so
think
important for people to
yes.
learn.
Um, as children, or maybe as Indians, so to say, irrespective of gender, we have grown up in a situation, that is my personal take, completely based on my experience. So So we have grown up in a situation wherein it's difficult to encounter fear of failure, and the fact of not encountering fear of failure, that by default gives a mental stress that, okay, what happens suppose if I go and do that? Oh my god, what happens if I don't take science in my after my 10th? What is my father going to answer to the community? So what happens if I do not get through my UPSC? What happens if I don't do that? So this question of what happens is not good, and I'm sure in some or the other field, all of us have encountered that comparison between the siblings. So unfortunately, we end up being eldest. So by default, there is a comparison that, okay, you are the eldest, you have to set the right precedence for others, and then again there's a pressure. So we are habituated of surviving ourselves since the childhood, in terms of a pressure environment is concerned, and that time we don't even knew the nomenclature of mental wellness, but we were suffering from that because of the pressure. So for me, coming up from a state like Rajasthan, a Bengali by my religion, Hindu, Bengali from Rajasthan. There were a lot of expectations, unread expectation or untold expectations that were there, and so by default for me it was I have to show them that I'm much better than all boys. We have all, other than me, all boys, all brothers in the entire family. So I'm going to show that I am way better. So I was that, I don't want to call that word, but I was that girlish boy, tomboy, who was the only girl in the colony for doing all cat fights for kites, patang. So in Rajasthan, we used to have, so that
Yes.
thing, kind of that notion for me of being bringing in excellence in whatever you do, whether it is a small thing, whether it is a big thing. So what is the difference that you can bring in, even if it is fighting with the boys, that is also different strategy that you can bring in. I think from there, the environment was pretty surrounded with expectation management, which was really difficult, because at the end of the day you cannot make everybody happy. So you grow up as a lady, then you are in a profession, then you get married, you are a mother, then you are again like you're answerable to your organization that, hey, I'm a mother of two, um, I'm going to be traveling out. So there are certain expectation management, not to surrender to them. So my message, very strong message to everybody here, is that in expectation management, nobody says us to surrender. It's absolutely okay that I am a mother, I have to come late in the evening, I have to come. So I cannot afford to be a plant HR head and say that I have to leave at 5:30. Organizations would not tolerate it. And that's again a culture, because we're talking about equality for all. So which means that if I'm expected to conclude certain things, I am expected. So it's important for sure that we have to strike the right balance between health and office or profession. At the same time, we are matured also, so we should not forget that we're matured, and we need to also understand the need of the hour and then accordingly act. In case in certain situations like this, if it is a pressure, you have to take it not as a pressure, but you have to strategically take it in a manner. Hello.
Please continue.
Okay. So that's what I would like to say. So yeah.
Superb. So, how is it possible for you to share a little bit that how this pressure built on yourself, kind of caused you, is it possible for you to speak about?
Oh yes, but I will, okay. So I am married for 16 years, and have I'm blessed with two children, and my first child is a premature child, and she was 6.5 months premature, which was something which any mother cannot imagine to have, because she was 1,200 grams, unlike any other child. So it was very everybody, after I delivered her, and she was in the hospital for a very long time in NICU, and a lot of things. I'm not going in the details, but
Sure.
everybody challenged, that, okay, why do you want, you have to take care of your daughter, and I think it's lot of wisdom was surrounded by my family, my colleagues, my neighbors, specifically my husband's friends whose wives were not working. So a lot of things, and that's where the guilt was, tremendous guilt was there. But then when I spoke to my core family, which is my in-laws, my husband, I think I couldn't have got that kind of support. Everybody there in my core family said that don't worry, we are there. However, once your child becomes is in certain grades, you would be very, you would start yourself that why did you stop working, and that curse is worse than suffering this out. So if you're thinking that you're failing as a mother, do not think like that. Confront the failure, you would see the things change. And I think those
Perfect.
words of wisdoms and the strength that family has given that time has been tremendous. So similarly for me, now my daughter is she's 14 and a half, she'll be 15, and she's doing extremely well. I have a son as well, so he's also doing very fine. In the due course of time, long office hours and travel made me undergo a cervical surgery, which is a very unique in its kind. So then that also has not made me think that I should leave my job and I should continue, because the moment I stop thinking about me, who would think?
Super.
So it's very important that for me to maintain my mental health, I have to first rejuvenate myself, saying that nothing wrong has happened to me. I'm sure if there is a cure, the cure is for good. So I have to keep on working, and here I am.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kudos to you, Pallavi. So, folks, I requested Pallavi to give a personal account so that all of us as HR professional, HR leaders, whatever professionals, can reflect a little bit. And our conditioning matters a lot to our mental health, if I can call it that. So, can we examine, first of all, what condition am I carrying? How is that adding pressure to me? How can I reduce the pressure on myself? Because we build a certain amount of expectations for ourselves based on our past, or maybe based on our present, maybe based on the peer group that we are in. Each of us as HR professionals, and that's the insight I take from this, has to think for ourselves independent as much as possible of what do I need to do for myself so that I can maintain both my mental sanity as well as emotional wellness. So
Rajesh, with
very
your
well.
due permission, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I must mention, otherwise it will not be right on my part, is uh, I am blessed to have worked with the kind of team members who have been in the team, and my bosses and my
Super.
business leaders. I think they have been fantastic. I mean, it's absolutely
Sure.
a blessing. I think the team understands you. So when you are yourself a boss and you have a team who is ready to do or ready to tell, so they, of course, they look up to you. They expect that, okay, if you are doing, they should be. That's all theoretical. But
Yeah.
then when you end up getting people, whether they are your colleagues, not your direct department members, whether you're direct boss, I'm absolutely blessed to have worked in very good culturally fit organizations, when
Yes.
I have been myself managed by very good eminent leaders, and I had always extremely good team members, my peers from the HR department. Other Without their support, I would
Sure.
absolutely not have been sailing in the boat. They have been there
Like
with me
I said,
always.
your outlook is forever positive, and that is what is also helping you sail through. We have a question coming in from Nitin De Silva. Before I come to that, here's the question I want to ask you, Pallavi. Having realized all that you shared in the last 10-12 minutes, is there something you do differently now for your own wellness, and that you would recommend that, hey, especially if you are an HR leader or a senior HR professional, here is what you could do, two or three things you could suggest?
First thing is, I 24th November we had a Thanksgiving Day, which is known to everybody. So I am the first person in the organization being in the designation I am to be the first person to thank everybody, including the security guard, for standing there for hours. So it's a culture which has to be created. It's a culture of gratitude. Even if I can
Superb.
bring smile to even 10% in a day, I think that makes. And I have learned it, Rajesh. Honestly speaking, I have learned it. I was not like this always, because age teaches a lot of things. Honestly speaking, experience teaches a lot of things. So I think what you wear, people may not remember, but how you treat them is something for sure they will remember you for. So I think so everybody whosoever has been associated with me in my current organization, my previous companies also, to some of those people who have really made a mark to me, I have messaged them saying thank you. And also have run a drive, and every I made sure that we just go and say thank you. That's with the e-card. Second,
Okay, so
yes,
number one, gratitude. Second, please.
very important. Second is, it is okay to fail. Absolutely okay to fail, because if you fail, only then you will have the understanding of what did not go well. And if you don't fail, you will never know what did not go well. It's absolutely okay to look into the mirror and say, I should have done better, for sure. Like,
Superb.
I realized that I should have taken care of my health when I was younger. I mean, 10 years maybe back, I wouldn't have been in a situation like this. So it's okay, which is where I make sure that I have, you know, women in my team. I have who are married. So on a, how do I say, I make sure that they are not staying back after a period of time in the office, come what may. I have given, this is my team, so I have the liberty of allowing them to work from home. So, no need to come to the office. If you have, they have some children's PTA meeting and all that, that's absolutely, my work should happen at the end of the day. If they are informing me, that's fair enough. So I
Superb.
have changed because I have learned from my senior, and I am able to percolate what is applicably percolate to the team members. So yeah, this is the
So
second one I
first
would.
is, okay, I'm taking these two as brilliant insights. Folks, your mindset. The first one, an attitude of gratitude, which actually helps in many ways build up your own wellness, not just making the other person feel better. Second, as Pallavi put it, and I'm going to give it a phrase, Pallavi, which I picked up from an MTHR speaker itself several years earlier, is to fail forward.
Uh,
Fail forward. Failing is okay provided you fail forward, in the sense you use it to
yes.
actually make progress in the long term. So use failure as a mechanism to change, to improve, to enhance yourself. Kya baat hai? Wonderful.
And one more,
Do you
Rajesh,
have
with
one
your
more?
due
Yeah.
permission, is ability of giving. Give.
Outstanding.
Yeah, because here again I would say that both my children, we make sure that though it's personal, but it's important, we make sure that they should be good human beings. So each of their birthdays, two times in a year, I tie up, I have now, it's been years now, so we go and give away. So whether it's a science kit, whether it is clothes, whether it is foods, something which these, there's a sanstha of construction workers. Now it's been almost 16, 17 years I've been doing them. So my children must learn that if they are going to enjoy a party in the evening, they must celebrate it first with the children around who are in slums. And they should not have this feeling that, they are, why are they not wearing the kind of clothes that we are, and things like that. So similarly, that is the social giving. But I think giving also, it means I have a small snippet of learning, I would give it to my team. So coming up with learning hours, some hybrid learning or some anything, you can give a book to your team member and ask them for a book review. They may take it as a work, but after you're done, then you say that I think you have picked up at least two things from the book, which is a learning for you. So the art of giving is very, very important, whatever way you think it is possible, but we should
Super.
continue that.
So, folks, let me repeat three great points: cultivating an attitude of gratitude, Secondly, cultivating a mindset of failing forward, using the failure to build you. And number three, cultivating a mindset of how do I add value to others. We are not talking about a giving of the kind ki ek danveer bano, but in general, can I give time? Can I give a year?
Yes.
Can I give a book? Can I give of my knowledge? And see how that pays you back. Excellent. Okay, Nitin, you've been, very patient. So here we have a question from audience, Nitin specifically, which I'm going to read out to you, Pallavi. Nitin asks, as mental health professionals, how can we help employers, organizations to understand that A, you have a responsibility as an employer to make mental health services available to your team. What do you think? Is it essential? Is it a nice to do? How do we go about it?
Okay. If it is essential, but it's not a mandate from the compliance first. It's good to have organizations. If we show our management that this is the absenteeism because of people taking sick leaves, definitely they would understand. Oh wow, what happened suddenly? Why this particular month has so many sick leaves? So we go back to them and say that this is a time of where the change and things like that. So okay, this is a time wherein there are different kind of connotations we give. So management definitely takes these things seriously. There are organizations. I'll Ideally I should not name all of them, but for example, ComPsych. So there are organs who offer their psychological coaching, which is completely confidential. So you tie up with institutions like them, and they offer you employment, medical. Okay, we are compliant by law, so we have to have a medical checkup, but which is a basic medical check. You can also have with the organization support checkup for about 40. You can have sessions not only limited to the employees. These are call based sessions, so they have their telecalling team who is going to take your appointment, and this is also cascaded to the family members of employees, and there is no name, no employee ID, absolutely nothing which is being discussed or disclosed to either of the
Sure.
parties. It is completely based on the code which is generated. So nobody knows that which employee's sister or wife or mother-in-law or father or my employee himself or herself have contacted
Sure.
the psychologist. So
So,
employee, yeah.
so Pallavi, I'm just going to interject for a minute. All right. This is great. I think the question that Nitin is asking is, how do we raise the sensitivity of this in organizations? Suppose it doesn't exist in my company. Can I help my leadership realize and recognize कि इसकी जरूरत है?
Yes, that's where if you showcase that, I'm sure if there is a pulse survey, there has to be some data points. How have you realized that, we need that? There, I'm sure that you have got some chats over the coffee or pantry that, yeah, I'm not feeling well or things are not, we don't have any enough things. People have come to HR department. Those are documented through surveys or some pulse surveys or
Superb.
dipsticks. So if you could make sure that is evident enough for organizations to frame policy. They may not call it as mental health policy. However, they can for sure call it as a well-being employee well-being policy. HR
Sure.
is a function which is the only employee advocate function. So we have to advocate our employees' well-being, just like our employee satisfaction or any training or development IDPs are concerned. So if you have
Superb.
the right data points on place along with the benchmark that what other companies or organizations are doing, what has been not good because of the absenteeism, how the business has incurred losses, or how employees have um, left the organizations because of any not so good incidents happening. I'm sure these data points would help to pitch in a case study.
Superb. So, folks, here's the insight from the last point. All right. If you want to, either as a mental health professional from the outside or an HR professional within an organization inside, if you want your leaders to listen to you, gather enough data. Number one. Number two, also show what other organizations may have benefited from. as like as possible. Third, create the value of that as important as anything else that the organization is doing today, and not as an extracurricular. Number three. Number four, create valuable stories. Okay, because I think today stories carry a lot of power. Your data also has to come alive to be explained, to be able to explain to leaders, various stakeholders, how this matters. All right. So, for example, when we heard Pallavi's story, it does something to us and makes us think. Very important to create these stories. I hope, Nitin, this is helpful to you. And this brings us, Pallavi, to our last question, last point for today. Of course, if there are one or two more questions from audiences, we'll be happy to take it. So, folks, if you have tuned in, please ask your question now. But my last question to Pallavi is as follows. All right. You reflected on how 10 years back, perhaps I should have paid more attention to our health. All right. What is now your advice to people who are just entering HR profession or just entering corporates? How would you recommend them to build their future ahead? Any one or two suggestions?
First, I mean, I would give three main points. Is a first important thing is whichever organizations, whichever kind of industry you are entering, not only do not stop knowing the company in which you're working, but understand what other companies of similar industry are doing, which means that what is the replication, what kind of business challenges they have had. Read. You are very young, you do not have different dependabilities of, you're free right now at a beginning or inception of your career. So understand the dynamics of the business, because that is extremely important. Please be well read, see the challenges, what you can just pick up, you know anything, and kind of upgrade yourself understanding. Second is stay connected to your peers in one-on-one conversation. Very important. Talk to them. If you have read something, tell them, over a cup of coffee, that is what you have you read anything. Do you know, I'm not talking about having chats only based on education and academic reading or something. It's not like yes, but then it's important to see that how much am I upgraded, uh, what is happening in other facilities of the organizations. If not manufacturing, what's happening in banking, how are the government taxation impacting it. Let's not wait for 2008 and 2009 kind of a day to come, but if we can prepare ourselves much better in advance. Economy, I'm sure now everybody is seeing how BSC is going up and going down. We are really fortunate enough to trade, and um, um, why we are interested, because it is giving me results. So imagine how much result knowledge will give you if you get from today. So that's one thing. And third and important thing is that never say no to whatever job comes. We stop saying that this is not my job, or this is not ये तो मेरा काम नहीं है, ये तो वो department. How does it matter if you are being, every learning has a cost. Imagine you are being able to learn without a cost. You are giving an offer to do something which is not a part of your job. Do it. It's a free of cost learning to you. Go ahead and do it. It's absolutely okay if an HR professional is asked to work projects or work for plant extension, work with civil.
Great.
You never know that you're learning something which otherwise you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have gone and spoken about concrete and things like that. So just take up whatever comes on your way. There has to be a positive part of any learning.
So, advice to young HR professionals, I'll simply put it as learn, learn, learn. I
Yes.
would have liked to end here, but in that 1 minute, I want to slip in one last question, Pallavi, which Upasna has asked. So, it is very closely connected to what you said. All right. And I'm going to request a short response from you. So, she says Indians generally feel that the more they work, the more I will be recognized and rewarded. How can I change this mindset which finally affects me adversely? Is there any way?
By mapping data,
Okay.
you know, if you stretch yourself for 12 hours, how much impact or delta change would you bring in? I'm sure HR now is flooded with different kind of
Mm.
HR metrics and data. If you are, you know, if you work for 12 hours, but if you work smartly, diligently, if you can identify the wastages in the HR processes that we have, like Mura Mota Modi, we do it in the plant. If you can bring that concept, see what are the wastages, reduce them, make it more cyclic. If you can make a value stream mapping of the HR functions, you would be able to contribute more better deliverables in a shorter span of time.
So work smarter, number one. Use technology wherever you can is the insight I'm also taking away. Because just like we are using more and more wearable devices today to monitor how am I doing in my steps or my running or so on and so forth, can I use data also to tell me how am I doing productivity wise? Gather your own data and work smarter, and don't just believe that number of hours actually make me a better HR professional. So folks, that's all we have for today. Pallavi, what a chat it's been. Time flew away, and if I wasn't responsible for keeping time, I would have kept chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
So, folks, thanks to all our audiences for joining in for one more HR Wellbeing Dialogue from MTHR and Mana Wellness. Namaste and thank you to all of you, my dear
Thank
friends. I think more
you so much.
questions
Have
are
a good day.
coming, but I'm sorry, folks. We'll have to take this offline. I will put it in to Pallavi through a LinkedIn. Okay. So, bye, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much. Have a
Pallavi,
good
once
day. Stay well. Bye
again.
bye.
Stay well, everyone.